Woo! Yeah, I'm doing 7 things at once. I am trying to fix my phone, which we just found out has been downloading 50 million episodes of Texags Radio. So my phone is going ballistic right now. But yes, it is Thursday. It is 9, so it's UK Cowboys time. Divisional time. How does that make you feel, Lorne?
Well, it feels good. Feels good to get this far and get the old monkey off our backs of not having won an away game, in the playoffs for 30 odd years, and now we get a trip to go back to the West Coast and face our biggest playoff rivals. I think. So,
Yeah.
you have to say.
When it comes to like a tale of two cities, nothing could be further from the truth with Dallas and San Francisco. That's for sure. So, here we go. Look, he's bring him in. Let's have a look. There she is. Look.
There we go.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh,
he's looking
here
bright
she
and breezy.
comes.
So yes, it's all going on. It is, of course, season 4, episode 47, 252 pre-game show for this weekend's game, which is obviously against the 49ers, and it is in San Francisco, so at Levi Stadium. Kickoff in the UK 11:30 p.m. on Sunday, so a fairly late one again. Getting kind of used to that, though, aren't we, guys?
Yeah, definitely. I'll make sure to stay up for this one.
Yeah. I mean, I was fully up for the last one. Luckily, everything worked out right, so I was okay with shifts and everything. With work, some of the guys from Germany actually were talking to us on Twitter on the day, and they're like an hour further along again. So
Yeah,
that was a right killer for them, like a 2 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah, and the guys from. Don't forget the guys from Spain as well.
Yeah. The only thing is, the only difference for them is they've got better weather than us, so I don't feel sorry for them.
Yeah, because like right now it's like what -3 right now.
Cold.
Yep.
Very
I
cold.
can't tell you the number of times I've almost ended up on my backside this week. So.
Feels like watching.
Don't think we need to know about that, mate.
Feels like you're watching an episode of Still Game. Get your thermogrips.
Aye, Simpsons $24.99.
Simpsons.
So yes, we will kick this show off. But like as we do with every episode, and you guys at home as well, answer this question. And we always start off with this, just without going into too much detail or depth. How do you just feel about this weekend's game? Bearing in mind, we just beaten the GOAT, and now we're against a third-string quarterback.
Right, okay. I've had a wee bit of time to digest this, right?
Yeah.
My personal opinion on this is that this is getting way overhyped up than the way it should be. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand where this juggernaut of San Francisco is coming from. I'm not particularly worried compared to last year. This year, I'm not as worried. Right, the reason I say that is because when you look at the San Francisco's record, they've only beaten, 2 or 3 teams with a plus record. They barely scratched the surface against Seattle during the regular season. They almost got beat. Who is it? They almost got beat to.
I can't remember. By the Saints.
Well, they got beat by the Saints. They lost to the Chiefs, fair enough. But there's been games where they would just edge. No, it was Tampa Bay, funny enough. It was actually Tampa Bay.
They blew Tampa out. I think it was Las Vegas that took them to overtime.
That's right. Yeah. It was the Raiders. Yeah, you're right, Lauren. So it was the Raiders, and I mean, don't get me wrong, they've got some good weapons in that, but I'm not that particularly worried. As long as we are very aware of the run play option scenario, make sure we contain McCaffrey and stop George Kittle essentially, and Debo, I think we'll be fine.
Yep. I have to agree. I mean, I think obviously, a lot of it's been made out that, obviously last year they bumped us out of the playoff when we were meant to be the bigger team or whatever, and they came in with their boom boxes and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But I mean, their team give or take the addition of Christian McCaffrey, hasn't really changed from last year. We know what they've got. Is Christian McCaffrey, if he can stay healthy, he can be a weapon for them. But you're also talking that they don't have somebody like Jimmy G. But again, Jimmy G's nothing more really than a glorified bus driver, to be honest. And I think Brock Purdy, I'd be more concerned if we were going into the game and not having the amount of tape that we do have against him. But we do have the tape, and he hasn't. Yes, he's been great. He's 6-0 as a starter and all that. But the more tape you have, the more you can see the little foibles that he's got, the things that you can pick on.
And that kind of picks up to the opponents they've been having as well.
Yep.
Like when you look at, like, obviously he wasn't playing. Well, I don't think Purdy was playing against Kansas City, but you saw San Francisco absolutely fold under Kansas City defensively and offensively. Where and all fair play to Purdy, like he has been playing some really good football, Mr. Irrelevant. So there's a lot of question marks and what to do with him. Yeah, but I think how the Cowboys are approaching this game is not treat him like a rookie, treat him like a vet, and actually get after him. So I like the comments about that and what Mike McCarthy mentioned earlier today, I believe it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you've played 6 games in this league, you're no longer a rookie. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
You've got enough. You've got enough experience.
Agreed. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm more concerned about their defense against our offense. I'm more worried about us in general. Like that's my biggest concern. Like, I'm not worried about San Francisco as a team. I'm more worried about what is Dallas going to do. Like, and this is the problem we've had all season. We've talked about this nearly every week. It's consistency. And the reason I'm saying that is, well, let me kind of rephrase it. When you look at the games where we should have won, we lost pretty much. And the games that we should have lost, we've actually won and really set a stamp of authority. And I suppose the favors on us, Chris, with the fact that nearly every mainstream media analyst out there is actually picking San Francisco over the Cowboys right now, not giving any ounce of respect towards Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, and Dan Quinn in the defense. They're not giving them any respect at all. Yep. And if anything, we actually are playing better when the odds are against us right now. So that could be the fire that needs to be lit underneath our butts. Who knows? But it's going to be a very interesting game, I'll say to the least. I'm not going to say that we are going to go out there and absolutely smoke the 49ers. I don't think that's the case. And plus, it's playoff football. It's like there's going to be more risks taken in this game. There's going to be more mistakes going to happen at some point in the game because because everything's on the line. I mean, this game will take you to the NFC Championship game against a team who we've beaten already this season, either the Eagles or the Giants. So either way, there's a lot at stake here.
Yep. I completely agree. And I mean, everybody just seems to be saying, no, there's no hope for Dallas. I'm actually, I'm quite positive about this. My money is still going to be going on Dallas. I think it will be close. I mean, we took them close last year. I mean, another couple of seconds, we'd have got another playoff. And
sorry, but you're right though, Lauren. Like when you look at last year's playoff game, right? There was a lot of bad decisions, not from the players, but from the coaching staff to do what they had to do. Like we shouldn't have run the ball in certain situations. We shouldn't have done this. We shouldn't have done that. Excuse me. But if Kellen Moore can do exactly what he did against Tampa Bay and Minnesota and all the other games that we've really stamped the authority, like even the Rams and even the Cincinnati games, those were pretty decent performances. Like if we can just get the best collective of every player playing at their best and have the coaches their head switched on, we are going to win this game.
Yep.
Yes. So should be quite interesting with the way things are stacked up. That came out this week, actually today, the Cowboys offense and 49ers offense article that's come out. So quite interesting. You get to see a bit of differences. But should we get on with this then, guys?
Let's do it.
Guess straight into the Cowboys offense versus the...
Oh, no, what about the news and updates?
Do you want to do news and updates?
Well,
there's only a little bit.
Well, there is some things I do want to kind of discuss regards to.
All right, then let's hit the news and updates first, and then we'll fire through the rest of the show.
Yeah, so there's two things I want to talk about. Obviously, the announcement today, NFL have announced that Buffalo, Jacksonville, and Tennessee are going to be the designated home teams in London, and in Germany it's going to be New England and Kansas City. And out of those 5 games, Dallas is up against Buffalo as an away game. But my concern is I don't think that's going to happen. Reason I say that is because primetime TV spot. Like, it's a big game. It's like I do not see Jerry Jones, and I don't see the NFL willing to kind of put that on the earlier schedule and miss TV ratings for that game at all. Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, it's there to make some money. So as much as I would love the Cowboys to go and play Buffalo, and don't forget, it's at Tottenham Stadium. It's a smaller stadium than Wembley. Trying to get it, like, if they do decide to play the game late at night, like 9:30 p.m. or something like that, by after the game's done, it's literally going to be really difficult for the fans to actually find any modes of transportation to go home. So that's the main reasons why I'm saying it's not going to be the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. I love to be wrong. I love to be wrong on this, but when you look at the historical facts of all the teams that have been there, and we've seen that last year when it was supposed to be AFC versus NFC teams, going like every year, it seems to be the designated home team's always going to be AFC this year. Next year's going to be NFC again, with the exception of Jacksonville. But we saw where last year it was Green Bay and New York. We saw Denver versus Jacksonville. It was like actual divisional games were happening and stuff like that as well. So it does not matter. Like, it could be the Cowboys, it could not be, but I reckon it's going to be more in the lines of Las Vegas. It's going to be playing against Buffalo. So, but I mean,
the Cowboys Bills would be a good one because that'll be a rematch of Super Bowl 27, 28, and 50, and 57 as well. Yeah. If you see what I mean, if you see what I put in there, but
so just to counter what you're saying there, Lauren, right? I get that from a marketing perspective, that's great, but they can still market that even bigger as a primetime game.
Yeah.
So I think it would sell more in a proper prime TV time spot, like Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football or the late game on a Sunday, a lot more compared to an early game in the UK, where some viewers in the West Coast would need to up like 6 a.m. or something like that, something ridiculous just to watch the game. That's not going to happen. So I don't think.
Well, especially, it'd be a rematch of this year's Super Bowl. So
who knows? That might be the season opener. Who knows?
No, that's true. It could very well be.
But the other news is, I don't know if you saw this. So Bobby Bell and everybody else, like Joe Machota, all reported that Brett Maher was 6 for 6 today and kicking.
But so, that's the kicking, Will, for you. Like I even wrote about that situation, and one of the things I've said in it is that there is no doubt with a kicker that you can go out and have a bad day. A bad day is and then the next week go out there and punch 50 plus, and it's done.
Hey, don't forget, Jason Myers has had bad games as well, and he's in the Pro Bowl right now for representing the Seahawks.
But Justin Tucker's missed some.
Absolutely, and he's probably without a doubt the goat of kicking right now.
He's Pro Bowl.
But the guy that we brought in to the practice squad, he was 3 for 5, and Brett Maher was 6 for 6. So clearly, Brett Maher's been focused. He's getting his head straight, and not to mention as well, it was reported as well that there was a lot of wind in Dallas today. So to make 6 for 6 in the wind, it just comes to show he's there. He's ready. He's ready to play this game.
Yeah, and if you've listened to Mick's shots this week as well, Mick was talking about the state of the pitch at Tampa Bay as well. I mean, the number of games that they've played on it recently, there was two college bowl games.
Yeah.
And there was different tendencies of the sod. They'd resodded various parts of the field and all that sort of stuff. It's likely to have an effect. And I think Brian Anger had said that there is an actual report that, Tampa is one of the for some reason, even with all the rain and everything like that Tampa is actually one of the 5 worst stadiums for kicking, in terms of the standard of the fields.
They get a lot of unusual weather, like throughout the year. It's like up and down more than it is in the UK. They get some really crazy, even in Santa Clara, it can be pretty balmy there. And like there's one part of the year where it's just completely damp and foggy that you can't see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah.
That's how bad it gets with it.
At least we're not playing at Candlestick anymore, because Candlestick always was notorious for having the high water table as well. And any time there was rain, it just became an absolute quagmire on that field. So,
giggity.
Yeah. So that was the 2 main things I want to talk about in terms of the latest news and stuff like that. So,
what is interesting, mind you, about the kicker that you're talking about, Tristan Vizcaino, is that he's been at Dallas before.
He has.
Yeah, he was on a futures contract.
Yeah, we seem to have a habit of bringing guys back.
Yeah. So I mean, so they knew what they were dealing with, and I think he's just purely there as because what that says to me, I know they're talking about the conditions of the field. You're talking about mental factors when he starts missing. I wonder as well if there was something bothering him, like something else, not an injury, but something niggling.
No,
because his kickoffs were fine. You watched the kickoffs because that's a big tell, and his kickoffs were going right where they needed to go. So I don't think there was any of that sort of injury. But I'm wondering if that them just signing this extra kicker to practice squad is to cover them in case throughout this week now, Mark just went not a physical issue, but more of a, oh God, he's breaking down. I think that's what that was covering.
Yeah, there's definitely no injury. Like Brett Maher came out in an interview during the press day type of thing. Like he just basically he couldn't point the finger what was going wrong. He thought he hit the ball cleanly despite the conditions of the field, and it just never went in between the goalposts. And even Babe Laffenborg on 103.5 The Fan today with Jane Slater and RJ and Shan was making a comment about Brett Maher saying he's got. I don't think he's got anything to worry about. Like they were talking about, like if he can have a good practice and that, I think he'll be good to go for the San Francisco game. So I'm not worried about Brett Maher. I'm just more worried the fact our offense, if they can just continue going, that's my most worried thing.
Well, here's, here we go then, right? We'll kick into the offense in just a second. The only thing I was going to add that so far we're waiting for today's practice report, but from yesterday, Jaron Quist was limited, but he's told the press he's 100% to go for this weekend. His words were, "I'm 100% going to play." That's what he said. DeMarcus Lawrence has a foot issue, and Jason Peters, obviously, with the hip injury that left him from the game early last week. If he comes back to play again for Dallas, I think the earliest we'll see him if Cowboys get there will be the Super Bowl by what?
I think he's out multiple weeks. A hip injury is hard enough to come back from anyway, but as soon as you get to 40 years old, your recovery time slows down and all that. So
before we go into the offense, Mike, guys, get your comments in. We would love to hear what you think about this game coming up.
MVPs of the show.
Absolutely. So, guys, get your comments out. We can see you out there all. We see Joe, we see Tim, we see Valenti there.
We see you all.
We see you all. So get your comments in.
Yes. So, the only other thing I want to make notable for you guys is that's just been reported. The Cowboys have opened the practice window for Simi Fehoko and linebacker Devin Harper, if you remember, went out in preseason with a nasty injury. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll just see what happens. When the practice reports come in for today, we'll update you back on that. But let's hit the show and get on with the offensive side.
Let's go.
All right. So I want to kind of segue into what you were saying about, the kicking game.
Mm-hmm.
So we may as well, as it's offense, we'll start there. The only thing I'm going to say, what you guys think of this, is that if we're relying on Brett Maher to win the game, we've lost the game. Not because Brett Maher is a bad kicker, but if we're having to kick field goals to stay in the game, this game's over.
Yeah. Yep. But, I mean... We can't rely on a kicker to actually put the only points on the board. Our offense needs to match that as well. Like it needs to be a whole team collective effort to win this game. Like, don't get me wrong. Like we kind of mentioned, like during the start of the show, San Francisco they have some really good players in that team. I still don't think they've played a team. Well, besides Kansas City, they've played a really, really, really good team on their best day. My only concern is we need every single person on that roster to be on their best to really make a statement. So that's how I genuinely believe. I think we will get the win in this game, but it's still going to be it's going to be a tough game regardless.
Right, Lorne, here it is for you. For me, where this starts, people will say Dak Prescott. For me, Dak Prescott is going to be what people lean to, but in order for Dak Prescott to succeed against this 49ers defense, it's all dependent on the offensive line. True or false?
Completely agree. I think both sides of the game will focus on the trenches. Bosa's no slouch. You've got Javon Walker. You've got that 49ers front for the last
Charles
4 or 5 years has been very strong. Mm-hmm. And if you think that, for as good as Tyler Smith has been this year, Tyler Smith against Bosa probably gives you a few sleepless nights. Yep. Tyler Smith, I mean, even if you go back to last year, Bosa versus Tyron Smith, albeit Bosa left the game halfway through the game last year.
That's right.
And
struggled.
His replacement, Tyron Smith, actually struggled against the guys that they brought on as well. That front can cause nightmares. So we need to do whatever we can, whether we bring somebody up to do obviously Connor McGovern's going to be back in the offensive line. Mm-hmm. But if you got somebody who can do what they were doing and, play that heavy fullback, so that you got somebody potentially as a blocker, we need to do something that keeps that clean. Let him do what he needs to do, and everybody plays for this ball. Yeah. Receivers need to step up. They can't think, Dak's thrown it. It's a little bit behind me. I'll just leave it. Yeah. They've got to go for the ball as well.
Because I think the big thing with Jason Peters going out, it isn't so much because I actually prefer Tyler Smith at left tackle than I do left guard. I think we all do. He's played better there. The issue is, I mean, we'll talk about Tyler Smith a little bit more now, but I think the issue is with Jason Peters out is that it loses you the option for the 6-OL formation. Like you say, with McGovern in as fullback as that 6 offensive lineman, you lose that option because your 6 guy is in the line. But one thing I will say is what is absolutely crazy. Go back and check this. Tyler Smith last week against Tampa Bay. Bear in mind, think of that defensive line at Tampa Bay. Good. He got moved from left guard to left tackle, which is bad in itself. That's quite a tough task to try and do, to complete. And yet there's only 2 offensive linemen last week that allowed 0 pressures, 0 sacks, and 0 penalties. One was Zach Martin, the other was Tyler Smith. Zach Martin did it from 1 spot.
Yep.
That was Tyler Smith's best game. And here's another point as well, is we're talking about Nick Bosa. I don't know what you guys think, but last week against quite a decent pass rush, Tyron Smith at right tackle looked much more comfortable. He was rolling.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think on that?
I completely agree.
Yeah, completely agree as well. I mean, it just seemed that things were clicking at the right time last week, and again, it suggests that maybe we were playing a bit of rope-a-dope in the Washington game.
Could be. We said that, we said that on the show.
Yeah, we said that, yep.
Yep.
That they were keeping some back, perhaps, because I know there's something else that I feel they kept back as well on defense. But this San Francisco D-line, Paul, obviously I think the edges for this offense, the edges for the defensive line for San Francisco, phenomenal. We know this. But down the middle is where you can attack them. The issue being, though, is it's McGovern and Biadish having to take that responsibility on. Do you trust them enough to be able to get pressure to create gaps for Zeke and Pollard down the middle?
I don't see why not. I mean, we saw the impact that Biadish did last week since he came back from his injury. It just shows you how much he's came on as a player and developed, and how much fundamental he is to this offensive line now. And even McGovern as well. Like, McGovern's now, like, given more consistency playing in the left guard position, he will get better, and we are seeing that. So, and like to key what you kind of mentioned there, Mike, is like their weakest point out of their defensive line is definitely down the middle, particularly on the left side of the A gap is probably the weakest point.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember who put up the statistic, but it was basically showing you the percentage, the success rate of the gaps, and basically the A gap on the left hand side was pretty much the 65% success rate. So I'm you know what, I'm just like, if that's the way and that's been all through the season and the playoff game against Seattle there. So it's an interesting start. So, and that's definitely more tailor made for Zeke.
Yeah,
getting in, get those 30 yards, run up the middle, take out the middle linebacker, like just dip the shoulder down. I think it's there. Like,
because this defensive line, the issue is this defensive line with the 2 linebackers as well, Greenlaw and Fred Warner, brilliant against the run. And they are ranked second in the regular season. They allowed an average of 77 rush yards per game. That's insane.
It's a really statistic though. I mean,
I can make you feel better about it though, Paul.
I'm not particularly worried about it. I think, like I keep saying, it's like if we're on our best day, I think we'll surprise San Francisco quite a lot. It's just a matter how we execute the game plan more than anything, I think.
Yeah. Do you think they'll have to like manufacture perhaps some of the runs, Lorne, in different ways, like play action and what have you?
Yeah, I think the more kinks that you can put into the offense, the better it's going to be to get things operating. It's not. You almost have to be more. What am I trying to say? You need to have these sort of kinks. You can't just stick with the basics and do the basics well. You've got to, because
not in the playoffs.
Not in the playoffs. You've got to have these things that have never been used before. You're going on a whim that they're going to work against these, but the bigger the risk that you take, the bigger the reward. So
yeah, definitely. Because like one of the things I quite like that I've noticed is that in the regular season, the San Francisco 49ers in the last 3 games ranked 5th in worst passing yards allowed. They were leaking bad. And you look at the last week's game then against Seattle, bear in mind it's Seattle, they allowed 228 passing yards against them.
Yeah, I mean, DK Metcalf, that first half, DK Metcalf was on fire.
Flying.
I mean, you have to say, I mean, the turning point in that game was probably just before halftime where the Geno Smith fumbled the ball, and that was it.
That was bad.
That
it's
took all the wind.
Kicker.
Took all the wind out of their sails.
I think that's what really lost them that game. To be honest, I mean, we could have been in fact, we wouldn't have played Seattle. We would have been playing somebody else if they won. But yeah, it's I think if it wasn't for that fumble, we may have been having a different scenario on our hands. We may have not been playing San Francisco.
I think 49ers would have still won. I think they've just been a bit closer, and you would have seen slightly different play styles.
Maybe, but then again, they just barely won against them early in the regular season. So, again, any given Sunday playoff football, who knows?
That is true. But obviously, going back to the fact that they're leaking on offense, I think because Dak had what I would describe as one of the best games he's played last week. I mean, the guy was on fire.
Yeah.
What was good is the rushing, the scrambling and the rushing. That's good to see because we've said this before. The sweet spot, I think, for Dak in terms of rushing is not these massive Justin Field type yardage, but like 20 to 30 yards and like say 2 or 3 extra first downs from that. That's just enough. And that's enough to cause defenses to have to worry about it now.
Yeah, it's the 7-yard rushes, like just to get over the first downs. That it keeps position in the game, it keeps the momentum going, it keeps the confidence within the offense going forward. So I'm more than happy. And Joe made a wee comment there. Let me bring it up. So he just mentioned says Dak needs to have more rollout plays and use his legs. I completely agree with that. 100%.
I wouldn't say more from what that last week's game, but more of the same.
I think, and it's like I'm trying to think of it in this kind of way. Like, if the pocket collapses, then you're left with no choice to kind of lift the ball. Like we've seen with Daniel Jones this year for the Giants, because that's what's kept the Giants relevant this year. And as much it pains me to say this, but if it was not for Daniel Jones, the Giants wouldn't be in the situation they are right now. Like, no, because Daniel Jones has actually kept their offense momentum going by getting out the pocket,
kept them on the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see why that'd be. I don't see why it'd be a bad thing for Dak to do that. So I'm all for that. Like, if the pocket collapses and there's no option, Dak just run the ball and try and get that first down, keep the momentum going, then reset and try and think of new passing option play to do. And it gives more information for Kellen to kind of process what needs to do, try and expose San Francisco. So I'm all for it.
Well, I think there's some crazy stat that when Dak runs the ball for 24 yards or more in a game, he's something incredibly weighted. It's something like 18-2 is his record when he's run the ball for over 24 yards. And that's all you need. I mean, give them something to worry about. If you're going to use Dak as a drop back pocket passer, fine. They'll just tee off and they'll work out where Dak's going to end up on a 3-5 or 7-step drop, and that's how they're focused. If Dak's out running and willing to go across the line and run with the ball, which I think you're seeing in the last couple of weeks, Dak's realised he's got to do that. He's putting it on his back as well, and he's going off and doing that.
And it's finally the stage. You don't mind it now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's so hard or go home.
Yeah. I think the best example, what we saw the best of Dak, again, we mentioned this in the post-game show, was Dak Minute's 2-minute offense in the end of the second quarter. That was just pure amazing. That was one of Dak Prescott's best drives, I thought. Like, how determined and how he was just so like forward going with that drive to put the ball in the end zone. And just to bring up more comments Tim's just kind of said about Dak's strong points here. I always thought one of Dak's strong points is how well he can throw the ball on the run. And it's so true. Like For a guy
he's pretty good at it.
See when he's scrambling, he seems to have a really accurate throw when he's scrambling, like moving off to the side.
Yeah, I would say not so much scrambling, but like when he's when he's evading pressure. I would say, not like when he's scrambling, it can be kind of a bit mixed bag. But when he's evading pressure, he's almost sort of like on the edge of escaping the pocket and getting outside the tackle. When he's just there and he's just, he's floating around in that pocket a little bit, and he's got all that pocket movement. Because again, I would say where Dak is strongest and probably one of the best in the NFL is against pressure. When he's got pressure in his face and it's coming at him, don't ask me why it happens as opposed to when he's got a clean pocket. But when he's got it coming at him, that guy can just deliver.
Yeah, and also just to add on top of that, so I thought his game management against Tampa Bay was probably one of his best ones as well. In terms of reading the defense, like Emmanuel Acho actually posted up a good dissection of a video of one particular play against Tampa Bay where the corner was supposed to blitz, but because when CD Lamb moved up further wide, the corner had to readjust and had to be on man coverage. Then the safety had to come down to be the guy to blitz, and there was no way the safety was going to come down there in time to get to Dak to throw the ball, and that left the gap open in the middle of the field. And it was like David for Tampa Bay, he was just left standing there like in the middle of the field, like because the only thing corner could do was just track, and the pass went to CD Lamb. That was one of the really nice key points because they had to switch the play up twice. Then you see CD Lamb readjust himself further wide before the snap. And you saw that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, because what was really apparent in this game, me and you, Paul, because we I know Lorne was getting his beauty sleep. He's much older than us guys, so don't blame him. He's much older. But me and you were watching the game, and I put a stat about the tight end. How the Bucks were struggling, and all of a sudden Dalton Schultz goes out there, catches all these passes, and then catches 2 touchdowns. Well, and there's me and you just retweeting the tweet constantly through the night. Then,
so just to bring on when you now mentioned tight ends, Tim's asked an kind of question. It's like, why not a tight end, and that clears one linebacker in the middle of the field for Zeke? What do you guys think?
No, but here's the problem is I don't think this is a big game for Schultz. And I'll tell you, there's a couple of reasons why. First one is their safeties are really good at defending the tight end position. Mm-hmm. Like the Cowboys play a lot of 12-man, so you can clear it out that way a little bit. But their safeties coming down. I forget the name of the guy. I only wrote about him today. But they are quite good at defending against the tight ends. This is more of a game for Dalton Schultz, I think, in terms of setting the edge when he's the point of attack, because that's going to be what's important. This is all about the run game, I feel.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But here's the one place where I think they can attack is CD Lamb.
Yeah,
and it basically looking at it when you look at the 2 corners. So their other guy, Travarius Ward, really good at defending the deep pass, right? So what I'm thinking, what I would do, I'm going to send Michael Gallup, as he has done in the past, and he doesn't mind doing it, on clearing routes. Get him to clear, and then the other guy who he's up against, then that would leave CD Lamb playing from the slot, right? Yep. So you do that, and he's going to be up against Diamador Lenore.
That was a bit of a tongue twister, that there, mate.
I know. But he leaks. He's missed a bunch of tackles, like quite a lot. He's allowed, I think, about 6 touchdowns on the year. And I think is somewhere close to 100 quarterback rating. And I know quarterback rating can be a bit of a touchy subject as a stat to use, but I like using it for cornerbacks. Cornerbacks and wide receivers are good play. Like, what's their quarterback rating when they're targeted? And Lenore is quite high. So I'm putting my best receiver on their worst cornerback, and I'm sending Michael Gallup on clearing routes.
See, I was about to actually button and actually mention Michael Gallup, but you actually took the words right out of my mouth there, Mike.
Yeah.
I think if you're going up against Travarius Ward as well, I mean, as you say, the deeper the deeper the pass, the better he is. But we have an understand, or Dak will have an understanding of Javarius Ward because he was a 2018 practice squad guy for us. Yeah. And then when he's obviously got better, but I mean, I think he ended up with stints at the Jets for a period, and then he ended up he got a ring with Kansas City. He's now with San Francisco.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, he was with Kansas.
But DK Metcalf made again. You know, he went off. It was Javarius Ward slants, everything like that. Javarius Ward is normally left in his dust. So if you got somebody who's speeding coming in on the inside, I mean that's easy to beat him. The deeper the ball goes, the more Ward has a chance to get back and defend it, and that's where he's in his own strengths.
Yeah, because you did see it with DK Metcalf, but I think you do that. So you make CeeDee Lamb a point of emphasis from the slot, right? You've got Michael Gallup clearing out, Ward down the bottom. So that leaves you with T.Y. Hilton, who could have an absolute field day here.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking. But apart from that, what does Dak Prescott need to do apart from using his legs? Just basically play smart football like he did last week?
I think he's going to have to. Like, don't be desperate. Play our game and not play to San Francisco. That's it.
Very true. Yeah.
Live to fight another day. Take the 5 yards. Don't look for the 20-yard pass.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Lorne.
You know, keep the chains moving. Keep ahead of the chains. All that.
Just stay on schedule. Just stay on schedule. You do nothing crazy. Nothing out of the ordinary. But let's go on to the defense. Is it, guys?
Just before you go, like I've just brought up
the
matchup predictor from ESPN. What percentage do you think the Dallas Cowboys are to win this game?
Like 40.
53.2%.
How come we've gone that way now?
I don't know what's swung in the different momentum, but so it's shown up on screen now. It's 46.8 for San Francisco and 53.2 for Dallas to win this game. So you could say it's near enough even split.
I would imagine though that's going to be professional picks as opposed to the Vegas odds of Vegas. It's not about.
It's just according to
it's like betting odds.
According to the ESPN analytics.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the defense. All right, here we are. I'm going to give it to you straight, right, Paul? And I'm going to upset you, and I'm sorry in advance. People actually missed the point that Neville Gallimore was inactive last week.
Yeah, I know.
Looking at this game, right, Paul, and I know this is going to upset you, I see him being inactive again this week because I just don't see any snaps where he's going to be of use to you in this game. When you think of the running backs, Christian McCaffrey, you got Jonathan Hankins in there, but also like you're going to have Christian McCaffrey, you got Debo running out the backfield, you got Kyle Juszczyk as well, and George Kittle. Like there's nothing Neville Gallimore can provide for you in this game, and I just wonder. Have we now seen the last of Neville Gallimore playing for the Cowboys, especially if he's inactive now?
It pains me much to say this, but I think you're spot on, mate. I'm a big Neville Gallimore fan.
That's why I'm asking.
Everyone knows that. Everyone knows how much I love Neville Gallimore. It's just unfortunate how things are kind of transpired, but this could be relatively be his last opportunity, and he may even be not even able to hit the field. So.
It's that third round pick again.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird that the Cowboys do so well in the 5th and the 6th round, but seem to muff it up in the 2nd and the 3rd round all the time. When you think of all the past 2nd and 3rd round picks that we've had, all right, Trayvon Diggs is.
I was just about to say Trayvon was a good pick, man.
Yeah, but you think before
and DeMarcus Lawrence, come on.
Yeah, I know, but there does seem to be a pattern there. And it's painful. And, it's weird because with Neville Gallimore, you drafted him to be this pass rushing 3-tech. And you knew he wasn't going to be... You wanted him to just be able to hold up enough against the run, which he hasn't done. But what's now happened is that He's struggled to stack plays and come up with a pass rush plan throughout the game, which now means that he's not getting pressure up front either. So he's not doing the job you wanted, and he's not doing the job you were kind of hoping he'd be able to just manage a little bit.
Do you know what I think it might be all down to? Overthinking.
I think there's some of that, but also I think that you can only carry so many players in the game, and he's just at the bottom of that pecking order.
Yeah.
I think what we've got with our, we have an crazy number of defensive linemen on that on that 53-man roster.
Yeah.
And I think the whole point is that that guys will be inactive depending on what the tactics are that you're expecting from the opposition. So there will be games where you could have maybe seen it last week where because you knew Tampa Bay is a 70% passing team that somebody like Gallimore would have been on, but then you needed Hankins there to force the fact that there wasn't going to be running in the middle and try and get them away from the running game, which they eventually did. They only ran the ball 12 times, all that sort of stuff. Hankins is definitely a big piece of this defense.
Definitely.
And it just depends on what you're looking for from your 3 technique. And I think, to be honest, Golston's coming on.
Yeah,
he was a bit quiet to begin with.
And he's an unsung hero right now.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about
as well. I'm in there.
Let's talk about those guys. I mean, you're segueing beautifully into it. The inside guys right now, I think, are turning up. When you talk about the big 3, it's Hankins, Golston, and Osa. And those 3 are turning up right at the perfect time, this time of season. And Golston is completely been overlooked. And the trouble is I know you guys have played defensive line before, and especially inside, it's a very unselfish position that on a stat sheet looks like a load of crap. It does, because there's nothing on there, but it's what you don't see on the stat sheet that's really important for the inside guys.
Don't forget as well, it's the most punishing position to play.
Very.
Like as much so I played DN and I've played the 3 tech position. Like I gained more injuries playing in the 3 tech position than I did in the edge.
I can imagine.
And it's just a fact because you're more likely to get the double team set on you. You're more likely to get put on your butt than you do on the edge. So
you got chips from both sides.
Yeah. So that might come along play into it. It's the wear and tear within the 3 tech and the 1 techs or the zeros. If you're playing heads up against the center, you're just more likely to pick up these wee niggles that might affect your performance.
But what I do like is that Hankins comes back last week, and I know we'll talk about Leighton Van Der Esch too, because that guy deserves all those that are coming to him. But Hankins, I think Hankins last week, he showed you, especially Tampa Bay, 52 rushing yards on the day. 52.
Was it not 11 yards for just Leonard Fournette alone?
Fournette had 11 yards. 52 as a team.
Yeah.
So
who's laughing now, Leonard? Who's laughing now?
And I mean, like, this is a defense a few years ago that let 100-yard rusher to some Fisher guy who just came on the field for a day. But
the Cleveland game,
yeah. But I mean, you look at this now with what.
Sorry, mate, but remind me, who was playing defensive tackle that time?
I know. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And your favorite guy.
Yeah, my favorite guy in the whole world. Yep.
But what is even crazier with Hankins, right, is he's not renowned for doing it. He even got a sack against Tom Brady last week.
Yep.
What? So you had a nose tackle breaking through. So I think he's instrumental. Osa, he's been the steady ship, I think.
He's the balance. He's the balance within the middle, without a shadow of a doubt.
Like, when you think of, like, when people say about Osa, the issue with him was always going to be tempo and can he go from snap 1 to snap 50 being the same? Because he did struggle as he would deteriorate quickly. is what his fall down was. But Golston, I was kind of worried at the start of the season what they were going to do with Golston because we didn't see much of him. But like literally the last quarter of the season and obviously the wild card as well. I mean, we're seeing a totally different guy playing up and down the line.
Don't forget physically as well. Like
bringing on with age in the gym.
He's became a more of the utility guy when you really need him at most. In a way, how Tylan Crawford was.
Yeah, I was going to say the Crawford role.
Yeah, like he's putting more weight on to kind of be suited more as a free tech, but also can play the edge at the same time, like to seal the edge, not as an edge rusher, but just to seal the edge. But yeah, Golston deserves a lot of credit when it's due right now. Like you said, like there's not enough on him on field, but when he's on the field, he is contributing.
Everything
like,
you need.
Like when you really dissect the film, especially how he gets into position and it frees up everything else for someone else. Like you kind of mentioned there, Hankins as well. It freed up like some Parsons and that as well. It's all a collective team effort, and this is one thing, and it kind of relates to like Hankins as well, and like LVE. Those guys who've came in, it's like there's that communication seems to be more synchronized within the whole defense when those guys have came in, and we saw a much more polished overall defensive performance in that game against Tampa Bay. So
perfect.
It was well, maybe not so much. We did slack off for those 2 touchdowns, but it's because we were playing really well offensively.
Yeah.
But it was like
we went into we decided to try and drop 8 quite a lot.
It was a little bit doubtful in a way. Like it's like, oh, we shouldn't have let them kind of come back type of thing. But besides from that, we were really, really good. Put the pressure on Brady, etc. If we can do the exact same thing against a guy who's the last pick of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, and Brock Purdy, and I'm really interested to see what this year can do when we go up against like a Trent Williams in that O-line as well.
Yeah, well, I'll get to the O-line, their O-line in a second. So I'll ask you guys. Micah Parsons.
Just to let you know as well, Ashes is complimented on your article. Loved it.
Yeah. Sorry to have wasted your time.
That's Mike trying to say thank you.
Selling yourself short again, Mike.
He's so modest, our Mike, so he is.
But I mean, look, right? I mean, Micah Parsons. To me, I think last week he was sorry, that's me. Right. So I think that Micah Parsons. People will talk about how good Dak Prescott played. I feel on both sides of the ball for both teams, Micah Parsons was the best player on the field last week, and that was his best game.
Yeah, but as an overall collective performance, it was like in coverage and pass rush and run defense, everything. I thought he was fundamentally sound. Like he may have not got all the best stats. Like he didn't have.
He's got one crazy stat, I'll tell you now. But carry on.
Yeah, but he didn't have like 4 sacks in the game or anything, or X amount of QB pressures or something like that. But
he had a lot.
But it's still a lot, but not compared to previous games. That's what I'm trying to point out. But when you look at everything what he was there, he was just all over the field, all over the place.
Well, just all over the field. He was on the field for 79 snaps. They played. It was only available
82.
to him 82 snaps.
That's insane.
They did not take him off the field.
Was it 3 plays he came out for?
Yeah. Yep. And that was towards the end of the game where they were dropping 8.
And the only guys that played all 82 snaps were all defensive backs.
Yeah.
So
which is standard.
Which is standard, yeah. But I mean, what Micah was doing was getting in the backfield, batting the balls down. I mean, getting his hands up, making Brady actually pull the ball down. We'd said all last week that Brady, if he had the shortest release this season, where something like 2.17 seconds. But because Micah was there and he was getting his hands up, it was causing Brady to bring the ball down, giving them another few seconds, giving the defensive backs that ability to wrestle with the receivers within the 5 yards. Again, it changed the coverage so that you were playing press coverage as well, which is something we hadn't seen all season.
Yeah.
So this again shows the capabilities of Dan Quinn to change the scheme to match. And then obviously you talk about we've had this big nickel defense this year where you normally have 3 safeties. Last week you had 4 safeties on the field half the time.
Actively, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, because I think what is important, because this offensive line, a lot of people are talking about, Brock Purdy, yeah, and they say, and we talked about this before. San Francisco are literally the Georgia Bulldogs of the NFL, and they're not quarterback reliant at all. They don't need a quarterback. All they need their quarterback to do is enough to just not make them lose.
Well, that's very true, Chris. When you look at Jimmy G's not an elite QB. He does enough to put points on the board. But it's the rest of the team of San Francisco that still makes up for that for the win.
The first part is the offensive line does well. Trent Williams, insane. I think he's allowing
I still don't think he's the best left tackle in the NFL, though. I don't think that.
I don't know, man. I mean, he's allowed he's allowed no sacks, and he's allowing less than 1 pressure per game.
It's probably just me. I'm just not. I think there's better out there. I really do.
Because
I think he's been better in previous years. I mean, he's getting up there in age. He's of a similar age to Tyron Smith, if I remember rightly. He was 8 years in the league when the Redskins shipped him to San Francisco. That was 3 years ago during the draft. So he must be about a 10, 11-year starter now. So every old father time's catching up with him. But yeah, he is still I think because the 49ers offense is almost predicated, again, it's going back to the West Coast offense.
Yes.
Mixed in with a little bit of the old Shanahan zone blocking the runs as well. That's what you're seeing. So it's predicated on getting the ball into the receiver's hands as quickly as possible, get it into the back's hands, get them running downfield. Don't hang around for a long period of time. That's what they do, and everything that they do is yards after catch.
That's the thing.
You look at deep. Their deep threat is Brandon Ayuk.
Yep.
Their short. Their scat back effectively is Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Because you look at that first Rams game this season, he had 159 yards, I think it was. And something like 150 of them were yards after the catch. He only had about 9 yards of through the air passing. Which was something crazy like that. So if you want to take these guys down, you make sure you tackle them as and when they get the ball. Don't let them get a head of steam up and run the ball.
I mean, we'll get to an issue with that in a second, because I think this is the sort of game, this is where on their offensive side, I panic, because there's 2 things at play. One, this is the type of game with Deebo and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle as well, where they can they can create runs on mismatches by moving personnel around, because all 3 of those guys can do various things. I haven't even talked about Juszczyk, right, who can do a various number of things too. Because, I mean, they're one of the very few teams left in the NFL that carry a fullback, let alone play them as much as they do. And they can literally interchange these guys around, meaning that you pull defensive linemen in and out of position. So, Trayvon Diggs is going to be head up over Deebo Samuel. All of a sudden, Deebo Samuel moves to the backfield. What's Trayvon Diggs doing? It is Leighton Vander Esch covering Christian McCaffrey, who's now been moved to the slot. So this is the sort of trouble that you get with them, where they try and pull these guys in and out of position. Now, the Saints showed you the blueprint on how to play them, is not to move your guys. Basically, just stay where you are. Don't let them bully you. So that's an important factor. But it's their ability to create these runs by having what is effectively very, very near as damn it to positionless football on the offense.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And I put a post out today about J-Ron Curse's stats throughout the season. Incredible. George Kittle, his stats for the season, absolutely incredible. That's where the rubber's going to meet the road, I feel. Because for me, and this is the question about the offensive line, we've gone in a big circle around, is do we try and put pressure on Brock Purdy and get him to rush his passes? Although this offensive line is really good, although this team plays a very sort of unique running style, their philosophy is very, very unique. And they play short passing and extended handoffs, jet sweeps, screen passes. Do we go for the rush or do we play clog and cover?
I think it's more clog and cover, to be perfectly honest, because if that's one thing it's done is throughout the regular season has been too ultra aggressive in the pass rush.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've been caught out with like sort of the quarterback becoming more of a runner, like Daniel Jones, etc., Jalen Hurts. And Purdy can do that as well. He can show he can do that, and screen passes as well has caught us out in a few times. So, if anything, I would be more inclined to be more in the cover side of things. And we showed that when, like, for example, LVE dropping back into coverage against Tampa Bay, he looked fantastic in that game. Like, so I'd be more than happy we kind of like, yeah, still deliver some pressure, yeah, of course, but I think we're going to have to kind of just be more very aware and learn our lesson from last time against San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say, though, I mean, the game against the Raiders, I think the Raiders did get to whoever it was quarterbacking at that point in time. Was it Purdy at that point, or was it still Jimmy G?
I think it might have been Jimmy G. I'll get the stat. I'll get the stats up for that, mate.
But I mean, they got to him, and I mean that, you know, obviously that went down to taking them to overtime, and
yes,
you know, obviously went down to the wire with that.
It was Purdy. It was Purdy. Sorry,
it was Purdy. So yeah, so I mean, I think if you do get in his faces, you know, it is going to affect him. But as you say, we can't be sending people on max blitzes or whatever. You've got to worry about if we do it, we get that, you know, we make sure that these tackles are put in as soon as they get the ball. We can't have them getting ahead of steam up. Now, interestingly, this week, Brian Broaddus has said that there's a tell with Trent Williams that you can normally see from the way he lines up. He's a bit wider in the stance.
Oh, the narrow stance thing. I've heard that before. Yeah.
And also something else I'd heard as well is that the side that Juszczyk normally goes to is normally the side that the play goes to as well. So when you see him lined out up outside as well, invariably there's maybe a wide receiver bubble screen or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you've got
and he's the clear man.
And he's the clear man. If he's lined up offset as a fullback, they run to that side as well. They don't really have counters or whatever.
Yeah. They'll move to the ball, like.
Yep. So I mean, there are things to key in on. Having said that, I mean, maybe this is where they throw everything out the window so that everybody's done their scouting for the last 4 weeks or whatever, come up with this, and then they throw that out the window and they go the other way. So.
Is what we said the Washington game was all about. But here we go then. We'll finish up on the corner side, the defensive backs. And first of all, we were meant to give kudos to LVE. So kudos to LVE. I mean, he played a fantastic game. Great to see. No surprise that, you know, locked the run down, and that guy was just on fire.
And like I mentioned,
2 year question though, 2 year or 3 year contract?
3 year.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of how long, isn't it?
Yeah. And we kind of spoke about this on Tuesday from the post-game show. regards to other teams that might want to look into LVE, in that we are in the best position to re-sign LVE when you really do think about it. One is we have a much more better knowledge of his medical history. Teams that don't know him, like obviously maybe looking to sign him, they'll be very wary. They might have the resources what we do have, etc. And we know how to actually utilize LVE at its potential. They might put him in a different scheme and it might not work for him, as proven and back in 2020.
I just don't see it. I don't see him going anywhere else. Like, especially when you think,
I really hope that's. Yeah. I really do hope to the gods that LVE does come back.
Well, think about it. Who's playing linebacker for the Cowboys next year at this stage? We've got Damone Clark.
Damone Clark, and yeah. I mean, I don't see you mentioned Jabril Cox, but it's just been a non-entity. It's not been on the field really.
Special teams, and that's it. Yeah. And that seems to be where they're trying to judge him. Where I think they're like, if we can get something out of Cox here on special teams, we can look into it. And he's just But let's talk about the cornerbacks, guys. Right? We gave kudos to LVE. I want to give kudos to Dan Quinn, because I feel he's been planning this all along and has been hiding it in the regular season since Anthony Brown went down. Deron Bland playing as the cornerback 2 spot. I mean, I will say now, I prefer him playing as a slot corner than on the outside. He looks much better as a slot corner. But by playing him on the outside, you play Israel Mukwamu from the slot position, and that result with those 3 cornerbacks at those positions is absolutely ideal. And the way Israel Mukwamu played last week, I'm pretty much sure that was their plan all along. They just didn't want to show their hand.
I do agree. I mean, I did think it was a bit strange that Nashawn Wright was inactive last week.
Yeah.
I'd seen a tweet as soon as they announced the inactives. You're basically going in with 4 cornerbacks and 5 safeties in terms of how they are on the depth chart. And you thought that looks weird, but as you say, it worked out. And I mean, obviously, Mukwamu was a cornerback in college.
He was.
We drafted him. We said, he came on the phone and said, "I'm going to be the best damn cornerback you've got on the roster." And they're going, "Well, actually, we're moving you to safety, right? I'm going to be the best safety you got on the roster." And he's thrown into the game there last week, and he does a job on his coverage.
He's good enough. Great. Yeah. I mean, he's going to struggle with the long speed because he's so tall and lanky. So his movement skills are fine enough. Playing from the slot, and it worked. And I was just like, wow, I was worried about the cornerback 2 position because I was expecting Bland to play from the slot and for them to still try and figure out with Xavier Rhodes on the outside and what have you. But it didn't. This worked.
I will say this kind of does go back down to the fact that this is definitely a Dan Quinn type of player. He's a hybrid defensive back who can play safety and can play cornerback, and he's got the height, he's got all the attributes that Dan Quinn wanted. We got him. We're starting to see why we did draft him. Don't get me wrong, like, I'd love to see more of him on the field. I hope he does well and keeps progressing the way he's going. I mean, I thought he did fantastic and he contributed a lot in that game against Tampa Bay. So I'm excited for him.
He wants to be a corner, is what it is, but the Cowboys want him to be Jaron Kearse Jr. That's what they want from him. They want him to be that tight end killer. Once Jaron Kearse moves on or what have you,
Isn't our tight end killer more like Donovan Wilson, but?
No, I'd say it's Kearse.
No, I'd say Donovan Wilson's more your sort of sweeper, or that rover guy that comes up and makes the big hit and throws his body about with it. Throws his body about with abandon. Because he certainly wasn't letting anybody get easy yards. When they came within his direction. So
Izzy was great, and I mean, you spoke to it as well earlier, Lorne, about the yak yards, because that's what this team is good at. But there's a two sides to this story, which we'll talk about, and that's Trayvon Diggs. So people are saying Diggs has issues with tackles, and I'm saying that's both true and false. Is that it's not so much that he has trouble with tackles, but that he likes to tackle guys like from behind to make an easier tackle. So if you watch, he'll let his man go past him and then tackle him and wrap him up that way. Yep. And I just think that in this game against these guys, that's a panic.
Mm-hmm.
Although I can flip this back on his head, mind, is that Trayvon Diggs and Deebo Samuel have met twice before. And do you know how many total yards Deebo Samuel has against Trayvon Diggs in that time?
It's 20 yards or something like that. It's something. It's something
yards.
Very low. Yeah, 30 yards. Right.
30 yards in 2 games. So for people worrying about Trayvon Diggs has shown you he can beat Deebo Samuel. He's shown you he can do it. And I do get the concern. For me, the concern in terms of corner is more Brandon Ayuk over the other side against Ron Bland. You're going to have to give him over-the-top help. You're going to have to. But by doing that, you expose yourself to George Kittle down the middle.
Yep. And even Juszczyk as well. Juszczyk coming out of the backfield is a very good thing. And then, obviously, McCaffrey as well. I mean, looking at it, this is a game where we certainly haven't faced a team that has this number of weapons.
Yes.
But I think, Dan Quinn knows what Shanahan's like. There's the whole Shanahan was his offensive coordinator the Super Bowl year and all that sort of stuff. They have an understanding of each other.
True.
That might play to the benefit that you know what they're going to do. It might also play to that you go, right, well, again, this is what he's going to expect. Throw it out, and we'll do something completely different. So,
yes. So, I mean, it is a wild one. When you look at everything that's going on there, because this again, once you start breaking it down with the running backs and the tight end and the wide, that's why I'm saying, as you throw in the offensive line as well, why this team is not quarterback reliant. Going back to that original statement, that quarterback needs to, as I put in my article, I said that Dak is a truck for this offense because he drives the offense. If Dak has a bad day, the offense has a bad day. Whereas for the 49ers, Brock Purdy is a trailer. So what they need is they just don't need him to blow out a tire or to suddenly slap on the brakes. They just need the offense will drag him along, and he just needs to be the guy who's not going to mess things up. And I just described to you Stetson Bennett for Georgia.
I think the term you're looking for is steering the ship.
Yeah, basically, and that's the way that side works. But I think as long as they contain is the big one. Don't overrun.
Yeah.
Create a pocket, let him pass from there, and let the rest of your guys cover. And that's the way to go.
Yep.
But let's do this. Yes. Everyone at home.
Yes, guys, get your comments in, get your score predictions in. We will bring them up the screen and read them out. So get them in.
All right. So I haven't given my score predictions in Blogging the Boys yet. I'll do it after this. But I'm thinking, so Brock Purdy has issues with accuracy and ball placement. Which...
wait. Funny that you mentioned that. Did anyone see I can't remember what's mainstream media, but they had Brock Purdy is more accurate than Dak Prescott as a head-to-head comparison.
Iowa State, just go back to Iowa State. That's all.
Oh my God, I'm just like, really? It's like this really comes to show that mainstream, you just cannot trust mainstream media when it comes to talking football because they're there just for clickbait reactions. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my goodness!
We know where you're going.
Sorry, mate. I had to.
No, but it's true, man. It's true. That's why there's a lot of people talking about media and underground media now is becoming much more truthful and the place to go. Hello.
Yeah, follow your Dallas Cowboys content creators and follow your Dallas Cowboys official media. That's all you need. You don't need the mainstream.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. So, so his ball placement is an issue, which I think for this Cowboys defense, they can capitalize on stuff like that. With Malik Hooker, Jaron Curse, Diggs is known for catching interceptions. He just hasn't done it this year. Deron Bland.
That's another guy we've not talked about. It's Malik Hooker. How much he's came on the past couple of weeks as well.
He's that Roman safety.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at that, I think, although it's going to be a close game, I think this is a low-scoring game. So I'm going Cowboys 20, 49ers 17.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to go Cowboys 31, San Francisco 24.
And I was going to go 31-27 for
Joe
the Cowboys.
And Joe, from our good friend from Italy, he's saying Dallas 35, 49ers 20. Guys, be sure to get and Tim's got his bowl prediction in now. He's going for Dallas 34, San Francisco 16. I like it.
Yes.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Do we think Dallas is going to be stepping on the gas so early on in the game, like we tried to do against Tampa? Because we did, like, the first series of drives, it was like 4 and out. Then once that first touchdown hit, and it was like we were full steam ahead.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even then. I tell you when the game was over, when it was full steam, when Dak made that rushing touchdown on the bootleg. As soon as he scored that was it. It was over.
No, I wouldn't say it was over, no, mate. I'm just saying, like, how the momentum of the offense was going in our favor.
Yep.
Tyler Biadasz got set. That's what it was. You look at the first down was a sack from Vita Vea that Biadasz let through. After that, he seemed to find a groove and kept Vita Vea at bay. I mean, it was tough. You watch, he was hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, but
he did it.
But what I mean is, it's like, since we got the first touchdown to Dalton Schultz, that was us on the way to victory. But what sealed the victory? What you're saying is that I thought the seal of basically game set and match was when Dak did that. That really took out the confidence out of Tampa Bay. But I think if we were
silence the crowd is what it did.
Yeah, I think if we were to do that with San Francisco, I think that'd be a very similar situation.
I think you're right there that it was Dak scoring that touchdown, but I think on the back of the fact that the defense had shut down Tampa Bay, that Tampa Bay had driven down, first down and goal. Micah Parsons bats the ball away. Again, probably should have. He's still missing that first interception in his resume. Had a chance. The next play, it's the red zone interception for Curse as well, and then our offense takes it down the field and scores on Dak's touchdown run. That was where it was sealed for me. And they got 2 touchdowns, but they were relatively safe times for them to score.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. But it's going to be a great game either way. Yeah. I feel, the Cowboys are going through. Brock Purdy has issues, whether you like it or not, what you see on ESPN with accuracy and ball placement.
And that
will be a place where they can capitalize.
That's why he's Mr. Irrelevant in this year's draft. Let's not forget that.
He had issues in Iowa State with accuracy. Here's the best way I can describe Brock Purdy for you, right? Average at everything, elite at nothing.
Yep, he had a good team the first 3 years of college, and then it dropped. Last year he had next to nothing, and the stats showed that, and that's why he was picked apart, and everybody passed over him 6 times, and 49ers took him a compensatory pick in the 7th round.
Yeah. It's the best way to describe him. And people will say about his athleticism and his speed and acceleration. It's again, it's average. Like, don't think that he's this crazy Russell Wilson type guy. He's average, but what that means is he's just got enough to escape one or two pressures coming his way. So there's a guy coming at him from both sides. He's just got enough to be able to move out of those guys' way. But then if there's something else coming at him, it's going to crack him. It's going to hit him. And that's what you get with Purdy. And everything that you're seeing so far is not because of him. It's because of everything else around him.
Yep.
Can't be more whatever the word is. I'm getting tired now.
Yeah.
More visual than that. Hit me with it anyway then, Paul. Come on.
Yep, guys. So if you're planning on going to a Dallas Cowboys game next season, be sure to go with cowboysexperience.com for meet and greets, stadium tours, amazing game ticket locations, tailgating, and much, much more. Get to meet players like Jay Novacek, Micah Parsons, Hall of Famer Drew Pearson, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, and many, many more.
Yes, that's right. And Lorne?
Right, so again, check out our Ring of Honor guys here. Whether it's the guys in the Cowboys media, talking Cowboys, hanging with the boys, the break. Obviously, they'll be firing up the draft show soon. You've then got Logging the Boys with our very own Paul Stewart and the World's team. You got Law Nation, you got Pick Six, you got J Tuck, Skywalker Steel, KT's Funhouse. Everything. I mean, as I say, I'm listening to podcasts all the time, and I'm now up double speed listening to them every day.
Not just that, Lauren, as well. It's like you're going to get more reliant content than you are than the mainstream media.
Yep.
True. And also, keep an eye out on our social media tomorrow. There's some news on the travel package. Wonder what that could be. And if you're listening on the podcast, which will be out obviously in the morning or later on this evening, that news is dropping today. So go check the travel package news that will be coming out. You'll be very excited. So that's it then, guys. Here we are. Nothing more to say. Nothing more now than to watch the action and watch the Cowboys roll to an NFC championship. I'm looking into the distance, by the way. I'm looking into the distance.
Oh, we forgot to mention as well, and you made this tweet earlier today, actually, Mike, saying the scenario if we will beat San Francisco, but if the Giants were to upset the Eagles, we would have home field advantage for the NFC Championship game.
That would be wild.
So that would be insane.
A home NFC Championship game to the Giants that you've beaten twice.
Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine the meltdown Eagles Nation would have right now?
All right then, guys. You both get the last word. Kick us out.
Drink to some Eagles tears, but hey, guys, go Cowboys. Let's get ourselves to that NFC Championship, baby.
Yep. Let's hope this time next week we're chatting about the NFC Championship game. Cowboys are going to bring it home.